Hey guys, in today's video we're talking all about drones and the things that you need to know if you are brand new to drone flying or if you've been a drone pilot for a while. These are good reminders to have. So we're going to be talking about how to get the best footage, how to remain safe, and just some general tips and recommendations that I have, and these little hacks and these little tricks that I've done over time as I've been flying my drone. Now, I haven't been flying for that long. I got my pilot's license about a year ago, so I am by no means a professional drone pilot, but there are things that over time I have learned and I have grown and advanced in, and I would like to show you guys through this video. So if that sounds good, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. Tip number one is to always keep safety in mind. Make sure that safety comes first. Now, if you live outside Canada and you don't need to take a drone test to become an official pilot, I still recommend that you learn the laws and you learn the limitations of your drone specifically, and you learn what is safe and what is dangerous. Things like knowing how high you can fly up in your specific country or province, knowing where the red zones are and where you're not allowed to fly, making sure that you're not flying in large crowds, large groups of people. You want to stay away from those, especially when you're just starting out and you're not really confident and you don't know how to control your drone. You want to make sure that you're comfortable and confident in it before you go forward in this. I'll link to some resources and some books down below that you can check out, and those are a great place to start if you're just getting into this so that you're able to be safe and smart while flying a drone like this. When you're flying your drone, you might come across some people who are aggressive towards you, who don't really like the idea that you are flying your drone around. They might think that it's dangerous or that you're spying on them. Something along those lines. Just land the drone or tell them, excuse me, please, can you give me a moment? Don't keep flying your drone and talk back to them or yell at them. It's very hard to concentrate on what you're doing and being safe and being aware of your space while you're being confrontational with other people. You're not safe and it's just not smart. And that goes on to my next tip, which is make sure you know your drone. All right, this right here is my drone. I got it about a year ago and it is the Autel Evo. I love this thing. It has a great image, a great camera on it. And by knowing your drone well, you're for one thing being a lot more safe, but you're also going to get better footage. You know its limitations and you know what it's really good at and what it's not so good at. You know the right conditions to fly in if you know your drone well. You know the camera and how to expose the image properly. When I flew this drone for the very first time, it was very fast. I wasn't able to be very specific and I wasn't able to control it as I wanted to. And I wasn't filming things like motorcycles or cars. I was filming like a lot of real estate or a lot of landscape. So because out of the box, this thing was so fast, I had to go into the settings of the app and I needed to tweak things down and just make it so that it was better suited for my needs so that the camera wasn't just going, whoa, 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 whoa. I wanted to be a lot more precise and have a lot more control over my drone, so I was able to get better shots of things like houses and landscapes. Now let's talk about the footage that you get from flying a drone and just how to take it up to the next level. For my first several flights, I thought that it was really cool that I had a shot that was, you know, super high up there in the air. And I was like, oh man, these are the best shots ever. Like, I'm gonna be amazing. I'm like way better than Peter McKinnon or Sam Calder or like all these other drone pilots that are so awesome. I thought I was amazing. And then I got home and I was really disappointed. The shots just didn't come out as I expected. They weren't very cinematic. And I think there are several factors that I could have implemented when I was just starting out to be able to make my footage go from being a shot that looked kind of cool from the air to being an amazing cinematic shot. One of the things that really makes so that I get disappointed with the shots that I took are my composition. It doesn't matter where I am in the world or what I'm shooting. If my composition is just not there, it's an ugly shot. So I really recommend that you pay attention to your composition and your framing. And I have three main tips, three main strategies that I apply whenever I'm flying my drone or really whenever I'm using my camera at all. You really have to know what your subject is. You have to have an idea of where you want your audience to look. If you don't know what that is, and you're just like, oh, well, it's a pile of trees, then it's just a shot of a pile of trees. Rather than having it where you want your audience's eye to point straight over to this one single subject or this one element, that is going to give you far better results, and that's gonna take your video up to the next level. So if you don't realize what your subject is and you don't know how to frame him right, think about that before you start just hitting record and throwing the drone around. My second tip is to use the rule of thirds. Now, if you don't know what the rule of thirds is, be sure to take a look in the description down below. I have a link to a video that I made. It was one of the very first videos that I made on this channel, so please don't be too harsh on it, but I think that it could still benefit you guys to see it and hear all about the rule of thirds and how to compose your shots properly and frame them nicely. But one of the things that I do is I put on my screens this rule of thirds, this grid, and that can help guide your audience and give you the most pleasing results, because we tend to really appreciate things that are in these areas where these lines are or where the lines intercept. And lastly, get a lot of versatile shots. It's really exciting when you have a drone, you're able to get these interesting shots from way up there in the sky, but sometimes the interesting shots, the very dynamic and creative shots, come from really low down. Don't feel like just because you have a drone that you need to take it up 400 feet. I mean, sure, do that, but then come right back down, try out a couple different shots at different altitudes so that you're able to get some versatility, and then you have more choices in your edit. And that is going to help train your eye and give you more dynamic shots. Also, when you're really close to the ground, the perspective changes a lot more and you feel like you're moving a lot faster than you are. So I really recommend that you get as many versatile shots as possible. That's going to give you a lot more choices later on in your edit than if you're just satisfied with going up at 400 feet and then staying there. And lastly, what's really going to help up your game as you're flying your drone is your lighting. I've really noticed that with drone footage, when things are in the shadows, they really lose detail and they really lose sharpness really quickly. I find that the best time to fly in is not when the sun is starting to set, but a little bit before that. You want to have it where your subject is not hidden by the shadow. And what I've noticed really works well and to give you the best shots is to have your drones back face the sun. That way you're facing the most illuminated part of the image. Now when you do this, you have to pay attention for shadows. It would really suck if you were filming like a house for a real estate gig and then suddenly, like right across the frame, you just have this large shadow of your drone just get in your way. It just is distracting and not very professional. So pay attention to that as well. And so I really don't recommend that you face the sun, because you either have the sun very well exposed and the ground just looking completely black, or you have the ground nicely exposed and the sun is just a white sheet that just, it looks hideous. Now during sunrise and sunset, you can kind of bend these rules and these suggestions for creative reasons. Sometimes the subject, that is the sun, looks so gorgeous when it's rising or when it's setting that it is worth it. But when the subject is not the sun, I really recommend that you have your drone facing away from the sun. That's gonna give you the sharpest and most cleanest results. And even though you can kind of tweak these things in post and push the shadows or push the highlights in one way or the other, it really just doesn't work as well as I wish it could. So I find that pointing the camera at what has the most amount of illumination is going to give you the best results. These are not rules that you have to follow. These are just suggestions. Push the limitations of your gear so you can figure out what you think is best. But these are just some of the observations that I've noticed while flying my drone. And I think that it's helpful for you guys to hear them so that you're able to apply them whenever you're flying. Anyway, guys, I hope this has been helpful or at least entertaining for you guys. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you're getting those notifications. You know, do all that jazz. And I will see you next time. Take care.
Meanwhile, he's just wanting more vape, guys. That's all he wants. Oh my gosh, I can't do it. I got a license by the U.S. government, not by the U.S. government, the Canadian government.
My lawnmower! My lawnmower! It's my lawnmower! It's my lawnmower! My lawnmower! My lawnmower! My lawnmower! My lawnmower! My lawnmower! Yes, that was awesome.